Yeah, in the spiritual perfection of happiness and being with God, it's like we can't really grow. We can't face these challenges that really affect us at a core level that cause us to mature and learn more. And so that's why we come to this difficult realm. And it's for our benefit. It really helps us, even though it might not seem like it.
To grow up.
Yeah.
And do you think that love is the ultimate answer to everything, to just become loving and love?
Essentially, yes, I do. But I think love can be a little more nuanced and challenging than we might think. Like I think it's important, for example, to set limits and boundaries with other people. Like we can't just let someone walk all over us. Like I don't think that's appropriate love. Um, like we need to have a mature love, like a practical, realistic, um, loving mindset. I think this was another question someone had, like, do I need to let people walk all over me if I'm loving them? To let them manipulate me and use me. And I think the answer is no. Like that's actually not loving. Like it's more loving to set appropriate, reasonable boundaries. And that's exactly what God does on the spiritual side. We have all kinds of boundaries and limits. And so I think a mature, like a well understood love, like you need to understand the people you're dealing with and deal with them appropriately.
People asked about the Antichrist, whether you saw anything about that. Welcome, Aaron Green, to Lisa Dubinsky, Near Death Experience Productions. Reigning champion, you are returning once again for a fourth installment.
Yeah.
People absolutely love to hear from Aaron Green. I get some of the best comments, wonderful feedback. I woke up this morning to some great feedback, actually. I might share part of it just so that people can hear what some of our community and our viewers think of Aaron. It says, Aaron is my favorite NDE testimony. His explanation of why we have the experience we do in life makes me think about my own struggles. This message, in terms of you being people's favorite NDE testimony, is just the volume of messages that I get like this is incredible for a small channel. So people just love you. They really resonate with you. They really connect with your near-death experience story. And I said this before in part one, just what you were able to see and the questions you asked as that innocent child that popped out of its body. It's almost like as a child, we can be more intelligent than a human being in the way that you were able to ask these simple, beautiful questions. Sometimes adults, when they have near-death experience, ask all these complicated questions and then forgot about the simple things that are the foundation.
Right. Yeah, well, I really appreciate that feedback. It is hard to put myself out there and to share, and I don't always get positive feedback. That like it's not always people saying things like nice things like that. So I really appreciate that. And the reason I put myself out there and try to share is because I do think I had the benefit or the gift, whatever you want to call it, of seeing some interesting things that I think people could benefit from and just understand how things work with God and the afterlife and our life here just a little bit better. And a little bit better understanding while we're living really translates into a higher level when we get back to the afterlife. So I think it's important, and that's why I'm trying to share. So it really means a lot to me that I'm able to connect with some people and people understand what I'm saying and are able to benefit from that.
Yeah. Well, on my channel, I do not believe I've had even one negative comment about you. So
Good.
I think that's just amazing for feedback, considering, how easy it is to get negative feedback, for people to misunderstand where you're coming from. And I am so grateful to you, as is my audience and is the people that follow you around on every podcast, every channel you've ever done, every interview you've ever done, even on radio. I think even before, potentially starting the YouTube channel, there's even a radio segment. And they follow you around and find you everywhere, and they just get more and more out of each interview and out of each Q&A that you do. And so Thank you for sharing with us. I know it's difficult because a lot of people can get judgmental,
Right.
but we benefit from it so much. So thank you for putting yourself out there and for being willing to
Of
be
course.
judged by those that, it might not align with, but
Right.
as a sacrifice and a gift to us.
Yeah.
More of
Well,
us
I
get more
appreciate the
out of it.
opportunity to share. It's also hard because what I saw was so perfect with
Mm,
God and the way things are set up. And then here I am fumbling through trying to explain this perfection. And I know I'm not perfect. I don't get all my words right. But uh, like it was really perfect. All this stuff I saw God and I'm just hopeful that I can share a little bit more about how all that works.
And actually, that's a good what's the word? Segue, I'm trying to say,
Okay.
to one of the first questions about the perfection of what you saw on the other side. We had a question where somebody talks about the fact that they heard you mention in another video or in another interview
Okay.
that you said that in everything that's in this realm, in this physical world, there's a perfect copy of it, the real copy of it in the spiritual realm.
Right.
Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Well, the exact quote that I remember is like this physical reality is like an ugly reflection of the spiritual reality, and it's deliberate. Like there's all kinds of principles and concepts that were kind of twisted or dumbed down, if you will, to make this physical reality. And so if you understand some of the aspects of our physical reality, it like translates into a more perfected understanding of the spiritual reality. I've heard that like heat and light are like the love and wisdom from God. And if you think about the sun, how much heat and light comes from the sun, there's like a, a correlation there. There's an ugly reflection, I would call it, and all kinds of other principles. All these principles of physics, and then the way we interact with each other. Pretty much everything is like an ugly reflection of something in the spiritual realm. And this is kind of a watered down, dumbed down, uglier version. But the absolute beauty and perfection in the spiritual realm kind of like mirrors what we see in this physical reality.
Mm. And we have no language to be able to describe how perfect it is over there.
Right. I view it like me trying to describe the perfection of God is like I've got a stick and I'm in the beach trying to draw a picture in the sand. No matter how good of a job I do, I just can't begin to accurately describe that perfection. It's just not possible with the human words or in this physical realm. But I do the best I can and try to describe that. Uh, just to point out how perfect it is and describe what I can.
Mm. Beautiful. So this came from, have you heard of Thomas Campbell? Thomas Campbell has written The Big Toe, The Theory of Everything.
Right. No, I looked him up and read about 30 seconds about what he had to say. But no, I'm not familiar with him.
A lot of what he describes is exactly what you describe. He just uses different language because he's a physicist,
Right.
scientist, a neuroscientist, worked for NASA. He's made everything sound like a big computer because that's how it
Hmm.
works for him. But it's really, he says
Right.
all the principles are identical. But one of the things that he said, which I thought was quite interesting, and I wanted to run this past you, is that when the creator itself, the source, started, or maybe it never started because it's always been around, but when it's kind of spawned these individual units of consciousness, which are us souls,
Right.
it needed to grow itself and understand how to manage these um, beings or souls that it created, that it gave free will to.
Right.
And that initially it may have not been anywhere near as loving and patient and non judgmental as it is now, our source. And what he saw when he was on the other side is that the source grows much quicker than us because it's much bigger. So what the source can figure out and grow in 1 week, we might need 100 lifetimes to do. But did you see anything that would give you the impression that source was not always this perfect and loving and also had to grow and evolve?
I'm gonna have to disagree with him on that one.
Mhm.
What I saw was that God was perfect and always perfect, and that there's no like God's not getting better from us. My take on it would be um, he saw a reflection of humanity, and that humanity is getting better, not necessarily that God is getting better. And
Mm-hmm.
um, what I saw, it seemed to me like uh, the creation of all these souls was difficult for God, not that it was hard to do, but like if you look around the world at all the bad things going on, all the suffering people go through, like God goes through that with us. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's like a difficulty for God of this creation of all these free-willed souls. And I think that's mirrored, when a woman gives birth, it's very difficult. It's hard to go through, and she obviously loves the baby, but it's a difficult experience. And I think that mirrors what it's like for God to create all these free-willed entities. That there's a difficulty to it. But I didn't get the impression that God was anything less than perfect at any point during my experience.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Rules, sets of existence. Can we discuss what you understood to be the rule set for this reality? And it's an interesting way of framing it because you saw other realms and the rule sets were different there.
Right.
There were monsters fighting each other, and as they hurt one another, their spiritual bodies would just replenish and become gross and monstrous again so they could start. That doesn't happen in our reality.
Right.
There were other realities that you saw, which is, I don't know, the city of light, which I think will probably have different rule set. Maybe we can fly over there and create. And
Right.
are you able to describe the rule set of this reality and also what you saw in other realms and how the rules really differed?
Yeah, so I could talk a little bit about that. So the rules for this reality, it kind of boils down to you're going to receive what you give out. Whatever you give to other people, or animals, or whatever you put out, it's going to come back to you. It's like it's kind of like if you throw a rock in the water, there's a ripple that goes out and affects all the different drops of water in the whole lake, and then it like comes back and ends up affecting that rock again. And that's kind of like what it's like with what we do, what we put out, how we treat other people. It does affect everyone else, but then it comes back to us, and it affects us the most. So that's one of the rules. The other thing is, before we come here to this physical reality, any difficulty that exceeds some margin or some level, it seemed to me that we need to agree to it. Like, we're not just put in there to suffer and have some horrible experience without our input, but that we actually have final say in how difficult our life can be. And we agree to difficulties above some threshold. We don't have to agree to every little stub toe or paper cut. It's not like that. But above some level of difficulty, we need to agree to it, or it can't happen. Um, I don't know. That's just a couple of the rules of this physical reality. There's also seems like there's rules in the spiritual reality that aren't quite the same.
Mhm.
Um, the core being, I think, or core rule in the spiritual realm is that there's an old expression, birds of a feather flock together. I don't know if you ever heard that,
I certainly
but
have.
okay, but we all have our own vibration or personality or way of doing things, way we treat other people, and that in the spiritual realm, basically, you're going to be with others who are like you. Like that's actually where you're most comfortable, and it's just kind of a natural filtering, I guess, where we're with others like ourselves, and at the lower levels, it's a really horrible experience. And at the higher levels, it's a more and more pleasant experience, depending on how loving each soul is. And some of the natural rules it seemed like everyone had a body of sorts,
Mhm.
and that body was like a mental spiritual projection of how they internally viewed themselves, maybe something like that. It's like it's different than here, where we have this physical body that's it's like unrelated to how we are internally, how loving we are, how caring and compassionate we are. And in the spiritual realm, the way we look, our appearances like directly match our internal characteristics. Like, you can't put on makeup in the spiritual realms. It doesn't work that way. If you want to look better in the spiritual realm, you need to become more loving, kind, compassionate, that sort of thing. Um, and these like spiritual bodies that we have, they can't be like permanently damaged. So in the spiritual realm, if entities are fighting with each other and they have horrible wounds or whatever, like they quickly heal and you return to your normal body. But in the low level realms, I saw, these beings were just constantly fighting with each other, and there was massive injuries. Like they were really hurting each other, but those wounds would quickly heal and they would be back to their baseline body. In the higher realms, obviously they're not fighting with each other. No one's trying to kill each other, nothing like that. But one of the other rules is like you can't easily go from a low level to a high level. Like it doesn't really work. That vibration, there's a vibrational difference that's extremely uncomfortable. And so souls who want to do that, it's kind of like they can, but they get so uncomfortable that they like immediately want to move back to their natural realm. And I think the further from their natural vibration they are, the more uncomfortable they are. So you're not going to see a low level soul at a very high level, because they would just be so uncomfortable that they wouldn't stay like that. But the higher level souls can easily go to a lower level. Like that's pretty easy. But if they do, it's like they lose some of their intelligence and they lose some of their happiness. It's not as pleasant for them to be down at a lower level. But they can, and they do frequently, just because they want to help those poor souls. Like they recognize that these souls are suffering, so they want to help them. Or maybe they had a relationship in life, and now they're concerned about them. Maybe their son or their parent or the cousin or a friend or whatever. They might want to help that soul to progress, so they might go downward and try to help them. So those are some of the rules I saw. Another thing I wanted to mention, I thought this was kind of interesting. I haven't heard anyone else say this, but in the heavenly realms, there was like a cycle to the happiness. Like here we have on Earth, we have day and night. It's a repeated cycle over and over again. But in the heavenly realms, there's like something similar. It's not day and night, but it's like a period of increased happiness and then a decreased happiness. And so the level of happiness kind of goes back and forth. And my understanding was that their overall happiness will be higher because they won't get like used to one level of happiness. So there's kind of like a cycle to it, and overall, it ends up making a more pleasant experience. But I thought it was interesting. There's something to that I can't quite explain.
That is so interesting because even they will get desensitized to this incredible level of joy.
Right,
They won't feel
right,
it as
and
much anymore, so it has to reduce. Whether
right. So there's a cycle to it.
there's a
Yeah.
cycle to it, everything needs to be cyclical. Otherwise, do you think they've consciously made the cycles within that realm themselves, or do you think God has set up the infrastructure, the environment, knowing what's
Right.
best?
Yeah, I think God set up the infrastructure for this physical reality and the spiritual reality in perfection, and considered all alternatives. And when I say all alternatives, I mean like all alternatives, and arrived that this is the best way for things to be. And I know it seems like a mess here on Earth, but that's deliberate and temporary. But God has worked it all out to perfection, and we'll get to see that, when we're ready.
Yeah, beautiful. You once described, I was saying, the temporary realm that you visited where people fought each other. Do you think that that was hell, or do you think that that's just a negative realm and there's no such thing as hell?
So I'm very hesitant to use the word hell, because it has so many. The way people view hell, I don't think is quite accurate. And so if I say hell, they think I'm referring to uh, that eternal damnation that is preached by a lot of religions, um, and I don't think it works that way. I think the details are different than what people think. So I do view it as I saw a region of hell, but I prefer to call it a hellish realm, because some of the views that people have I don't think are quite right. Like, one is that it's eternal, and I think everything in the spiritual realm is eternal in the sense that there's no time, but that doesn't mean that souls are stuck at that level forever. It was very clear that souls would be able to progress their way out, but it was definitely a hellish, horrible realm. Um, that there are souls that are suffering in the afterlife. That was very clear, and I was one of them at one point. And so So to answer your question, yeah, I think hell exists, but it's very important to note that it's temporary and it serves a purpose.
Mm.
And I think if you can understand that, especially the temporary nature of it, then yeah, I would say hell exists.
Do you think, Aaron, that it's like a punishment that you're sent there for things for a certain life that you've lived, or is it your own vibration that sends you there because of the type of life that you've lived that you're okay with making those choices and actions?
Right.
Both.
No, I don't view it as a punishment at all. I think a punishment is a very a human way of viewing things. I think I view it as the most difficult but most surefire way for a soul to learn something. Like if you go to, let's say you like to torture other people, and there's people on earth that they enjoy torturing other people.
I know.
Well, that is so out of touch with what God is and how heaven works that that many of those souls will be put in a reality where they receive the basically the souls are torturing each other, and it's so horrible and so awful that they will quickly learn that wow, this is not good, you know. And when they're ready, when they have learned their lesson, they will be able to leave that hell, and they will be affected to their core. And when they come back to Earth, they will have a deep seated aversion to torture. They will have learned that lesson, and they may still have some karmic. They may still have to face something here on Earth, but they will have learned their lesson, and
Mhm.
they're not going to be inclined to repeat that same kind of behavior. And that's repeated for all kinds of different negative characteristics or negative ways of doing things that people could have.
Mhm.
That there's a specific hellish environment where they could receive the full spiritual weight of that kind of behavior, and they will learn. Uh, it's like there's no way around it. You're going to learn that that's a bad thing and that not to do it. So it serves a purpose, but it's not really a punishment.
Mhm. Do you think that they learn because they've experienced it and don't want the consequence, or because they've truly evolved as a soul? You know how there's a difference between not doing something because you know you'll get in trouble and not doing something
Right.
because you would never do such a thing because you've evolved out of it and you don't want to hurt anyone because you have so much love for people.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. I think probably it starts as an aversion, like you don't want to, you don't want to do it because you might feel that there would be a consequence for you on a deeper level. But as time goes on and you progress through life and you experience this and you get to make your own decisions and choose for yourself not to engage in that kind of negative behavior, then it becomes more deep seated and you own it. You own that aversion to these negative, sinful, evil ways of doing things that affects you in a different way and is more meaningful than just that aversion because you don't want to feel the consequences.
The middle realm in the spiritual world, where you discussed that in and after life, in between incarnations, you found yourself living in a middle realm where nothing bad was happening, nothing great was happening until
Right.
you were encouraged by your guides to return. People want to know, what do you do in that realm? Do you watch TV? Do you watch people living in our physical worlds or other worlds? Do you eat? Do you dance? Do you party? Is it boring? What do you do in this realm?
Right. So I guess I view it as there's a couple different middle realms, or I view them differently. I'm not sure if they even are different. So one of the realms was kind of like a realm where souls plan their upcoming life, and it seemed like that was where I would be stuck if I didn't agree to come back here to Earth. And um, I don't know what I'd be doing. It seemed like I'd be just kind of roaming around the universe as a uh, disembodied soul. Um, I'm not sure what I'd be doing other than roaming around because it's also like a timeless realm. So time just, it's not quite the same.
Could you be a
Um,
ghost? Could you return as a ghost for a while and then
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't really understand Ghost or what the rules are about that. I didn't see anything about that. I mean, I kind of think there's something to that, but I don't really know what it might be. So in this one realm, the pre-life planning realm, I don't know what a soul might be doing, but some of the other midway realms that a soul might be in after life, a lot of the like they're kind of a neutral or middle level realm that are very similar to what a person has lived on Earth, but better, more pleasant. The interactions with others are better. A lot of these so I saw a couple of these kind of middle level realms, and it seems like the souls there are doing the same kind of thing they were doing on Earth. They might have jobs, they might be walking down the street, they have buildings, the same type of stuff that we have on Earth, but just a better version of it. And they can do that as long as they want, but eventually they're going to recognize that there's higher levels that are much happier, where it doesn't necessarily look just like Earth, and they're going to want to progress to that eventually.
Are there any wars in this realm? Any evil in this realm?
No, the wars I saw were more in the hellish realm. The higher levels you go, or even like the more neutral levels, there's not wars, nothing like that. But the further down you go, the animosity souls have for each other, the hatred, the stealing, the need to dominate others is huge. Um, so when you get to the lower levels of hell, it just kind of devolves into just endless war. There's like nothing but war. That's all they do is fight with each other.
Mm.
But no, at the mid levels and the higher levels, there's no war, nothing like that.
And another question is, do we eat in these mid-level realms?
Yeah, I think they don't need to eat. The souls have uh their spiritual body, I guess you would call it. Um, but they don't need to eat, but they they have a view that's kind of like their view of the universe is very earth based, and so they want to keep doing all the same stuff they did on Earth, and they can they can have food and fruit, and there's trees and all kinds of stuff, and they can continue just acting very similar to how they did on Earth. But as souls progress and get higher and higher levels, they don't feel the need to continue to do these same earthly or physical type of activities that they felt, um, that they kind of like remember from their lifetime. And it's actually more pleasurable when you move into higher levels, and you can get like the truer form of these same kind of activities. And it's actually much better when you let go of the earthly way of doing things, and you can move into the higher spiritual levels.
Mhm. Why are they so stuck in the earthly way of doing things and not the spiritual way of doing things? How did it become
Yeah,
backwards?
I guess it just takes effort and repeated lifetimes to start to view things differently and be able to accept a different way of existing or living.
Mhm.
And I think it takes more work, takes more effort, more incarnations, more trips to the earth. And then inevitably we all get to where we can move to higher levels and get past this physical earthly way of doing things.
Mhm. Somebody asked about star signs and how that influences people's personality traits. And when with all the pre-birth planning that people do, when you were saying, here's a body and this is a kind of life that your guides were initially recommending to you, and it was going to be a very angry
Mhm.
individual, and you said, no, I'm not up for that. Does being born on a certain day in a certain month, numerology, all of that also play a perfect part in that synchronicity in creating your personality?
Um, I didn't see anything related to that. What I saw, like I did get to choose my birthday within a narrow band, because that's just what worked with when I was conceived, or when this body was conceived.
Mhm.
Um, but I chose the birth date based on uh, some some references to past lives, like dates that something happened in a previous life. But I didn't see that there was any kind of significance to like our astrological signs or anything like that. So if there is, I'm not aware of it.
How seriously does spirit and God take this reality? How seriously do angels and God take what happens down here, considering that we've been sort of put into a safe, people don't feel like it's safe, but it's actually a safe little children's
Right.
pen to play and fight and
Yeah.
create and build and love and divorce and war and all of that. And as traumatic as some events can be, none of this harms our soul. It can
Right.
harm our soul from the memory of it and the trauma, but not really ever harm, kill the soul. It's like being plugged into a virtual reality game to some degree.
Right.
So, do they take it as seriously as we do, where we think, oh my goodness, you're the most horrendous individual and you caused all this harm? And when that horrendous individual crosses over, he's dealt quite kindly with a lot of love. It's looked at
Right.
all the mitigating circumstances that help that individual become this horrendous person. And he's not dealt with in the same way that we would think that individual should be dealt with, because it's not taken as seriously that any of his or her crimes committed were anywhere near as terrible as we think they are when we're plugged into this avatar. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I felt like the my guides viewed this experience uh, like they took it seriously. They knew that it was hard. They understood the hardships that we were going through, and they knew that the decisions I was making would affect that life. And they gave it the appropriate seriousness
Mm-hmm.
that it needed. They also seem to understand that it's a learning experience, and even if we, no matter how bad, like you said, no matter how bad we screw up life, our souls are still safe. Like we're setting up difficulties for ourselves. Uh, if we mistreat someone else, it could definitely come back and we receive that mistreatment. But that's temporary and it's for our education and growth. So I think, yeah, they take it seriously enough. They understand we're suffering and they do what they can to help us without interfering with our free will. Um, so, yeah, I would say they have the appropriate level of seriousness when they view our lives and what we're going through. But they understand that it's temporary, just like you mentioned.
And just like we understand when we cross over, but at the moment we've forgotten.
Right. Yeah, and another thing, the temporariness. Like during my experience, I got to view how I, as a soul, viewed life and the difficulties, and it seems like so short, like ripping off a band-aid, or I think another appropriate view might be like taking a cold shower. Like your soul's taking a quick cold shower that is going to wash away some of this bad stuff, and then you get out, and it was a difficult experience, an unpleasant cold shower, but hey, when you get out, you're cleaner than you were when you got in.
Mm-hmm. Do they have counseling on the other side for some of the trauma that souls go through? And, or counseling realms, beautiful realms that actually help people decompress or wash away
Yeah,
their.
I've heard mention of such things. I didn't see anything like that, but I think definitely when you get to the other side, you're greeted by souls and friends and all kinds of beings that are prepared to help you and just want the best for you. They want you to progress into happiness. That's the overall theme, is that all these souls are trying to help each other to progress and move to higher, happier levels.
Mhm.
Uh, so I would not be surprised if there's realms specifically set up for helping souls who have had a very difficult life to transition to the spiritual realm. But whatever's needed for each soul, that's what they're going to get.
People asked about the Antichrist, whether you saw anything about that.
I did not see anything specific related to an antichrist or or like a devil, a like a an evil being that is kind of like the alternative to God. I didn't see anything like that.
Were you told that a devil existed in this realm or
I
in
was
the
not
realm?
told.
Mm.
I was not told that there was or was not a devil. What I saw, so how I view it is that souls that have really gone off track and they hate others, they mistreat others horribly. That those souls in the spiritual realm, they look like how we imagine a devil would look, like just really hideous and ugly, and just abhorrent to look at. And so I view this notion of a devil is where past NDEers or people who've had a spiritual existence have gone to the other side and they've seen some of these low level souls and what they look like in the spiritual realm, and it looks like a demon or an ugly being. And that, to me, I think that's what they're describing, is some of these souls that are at low levels. And I don't think there is a master negative entity that's kind of at God's level that governs the hellish realms.
Mm.
Actually, what I saw is in this hellish realm I was in, where everybody was fighting with each other, it was actually angels were above this realm, watching these free will beings just hurting each other. And as soon as one of them decided not to fight with the others, the angel would swoop down and take them out, like they were there to help. So what I saw was that God's in charge of everything, like from the top to the bottom. And the hellish realms, it's not like God is punishing people there or souls there or anything like that. It's more that they're allowed to, uh, freely conduct themselves how they want to. That, like, they can exercise their free will, and because they want to hurt others, they're in a horrible place. That's just kind of how it works. And there's not a devil overseeing that, but rather there's helpful
Angel.
angels who are there to help the souls there when they're ready to receive that help.
That is how I've always seen it as well, Aaron, in my intuitive part of myself. It always made sense to me exactly what you've described. And I
Okay.
think people always told me that I'm just being naive in not wanting to recognize that there is this horrible devil character that is
Right.
just as powerful as God trying to pull you in, or, even if it's not that, other people have said, no, it exists. And God has created that so that we can learn and grow through the negative challenges and emotions, and that you need that in this realm. But I've always aligned my thinking exactly to what you've described. So
Right. Yeah, and
that connects.
yeah, there's something else I want to share that I haven't heard this mentioned, but this entire physical realm is like an ugly reflection of the spiritual realm. And one thing that I think is a reflection is, I think the sun is kind of like a correlation of God, and the moon is kind of a correlation of the hellish regions.
Mhm.
And from Earth, they appear to be the same size. They look like, hey, the sun and the moon are the same size. But in reality, the sun is significantly bigger. The good stuff is significantly bigger than the bad stuff. And if you want to look further, eventually, our sun's going to swell up to be a super giant, and it will actually absorb uh, the moon and the Earth. And so, um, I think from our viewpoint, it's deliberately like we're supposed to view the bad stuff and the good stuff as like they appear to be equal, but that's just an illusion for our benefit. In the reality, God's in charge, God's running things, and what God's will is ultimately going to prevail.
We kind of touched on pre-agreed challenges versus random events, and you explained that anything above a certain level, people have to agree to. So if you're
Right.
born, like you said, you had the option of potentially being born with a club foot because the genetics were all there, but it wasn't for your better growth and evolution and the people around you. So you chose not to select that as an experience. But what about if you go
Mhm.
off the destined course, the plot points
Right.
that your yourself and your guides have worked out for you, and you just really deviate over into weird and wonderful country land, which is not weird and wonderful at all, and an accident occurs and you lose your leg?
Right.
Could that happen even though we've got pre-birth planning, and what a horrific experience that is, and it wasn't planned at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I saw was that we planned out our lives, and there's definitely a base plan to our lives, but that we always maintain free will, and we're always capable of doing something different. And
Mm-hmm.
exactly how our guides are able to compensate for that, because they can compensate for that. Like God, like we're not tricking God here when we do something that's crazy, like just I don't know, if I move to the other side of the world out of the blue or something. Um, Somehow they're able to compensate for that, and I don't really have a full understanding of how that works, but it seemed to me that most souls are going to be able to follow their general plan. And if
Mm.
they deviate from that plan, the guides are able to compensate and adjust things accordingly so it still works out. And they can still plan other people's lives accordingly. And part of how that's able to work is because there's no time in the spiritual realms. And we view things very sequentially, but in the spiritual realm, they're able to plan things across time in a way that is hard to comprehend here on earth.
They can kind of see where things are going to land because of where you're at the moment. And so they can plot it out and sort of,
Right.
oh yeah, where we plotted this to happen, that's actually turning into this. So if we twist it around, so that's saying everything always happens for the best is because our guides are working at full speed, trying to twist any strange choices we make to still get us to the next destination that we we're meant to go to. That was a question. A
Right.
confused question. Yeah.
Yeah. Our guides, they can do stuff across time that is hard for us to comprehend.
Mm-hmm.
And they can plan things way in advance and understand the decisions we're going to be faced with and what we'll probably take. And they can do they do a really good job of managing that so that we maintain our free will, but we have we have planning in place for how our lives are going to go, and somehow it all works together very well. My ability to explain it isn't so good, but that doesn't mean that they're not able to do this perfectly. God and our guides are working together to help us plan our lives, and yet let us maintain the appropriate level of free will so that we can make all the decisions we need to make and face the consequences we need to face. And they can interweave these billions of different lives together perfectly to allow the planning of basic lives, and yet allow all these different free wills to interact without a problem.
It's just extraordinary, really, when you think about it.
Right.
Absolutely extraordinary and beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
It really is, isn't it? Did you see in previous lifetimes that you were of a different race or a different ethnicity or different gender? A question about how we get so attached in our identity in such a short period of time, whether that identity is
Right.
I'm a man or whether that identity is that I'm Japanese and that's my culture. And within 20
Right.
years, I'm so attached to this identity and who it is. I guess the question was, did you firstly see yourself in different
Yeah, absolutely.
ethnicities and all of that? Yep.
Definitely. Different genders and different ethnicities.
Right. What
Um,
did you see yourself as? Could you elaborate? Because I just find that so interesting.
uh, I don't want to get into too many specifics about past lives. That's not where I want to. I did see some stuff, but I don't want to get too into it. But I've definitely been different races
Hmm.
and different parts of the world, different genders, all of it. You know, I've 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 been around, I guess, as a soul,
Hmm.
and been through some stuff in different different parts of the world, different races. Uh, to answer your question, I think you know spiritually, a person, let's just say I'm a white person, I might like that might be very important to me as a person that I'm white or I'm male, and that's how I identify. Um, and from a spiritual perspective, it doesn't look the same. From a spiritual perspective, I view myself as part of this subgroup, and it's not the same as being a white person from a spiritual perspective. And let's say in another life, I'm an Asian person. I'm going to have that same kind of spiritual mindset where I view myself as part of this subgroup. But now I view myself as okay, I'm an Asian, and that's very important to me. And spiritually, it looks the same, whether or not you think it's very important that you're Caucasian or Asian or whatever. Um, Spiritually, it looks the same, even though for us, it looks like you're whatever race it is. And I view that as, you're segmenting yourself, you're viewing yourself as a smaller part of the whole than you really are. And a higher level thought would be to view yourself as, part of humanity, and you're one with all these other people, whatever their race is, whatever their gender is. And if you want to go to even higher levels, you're part of the earth, and you're one of all these creations. And if you want to go even higher, you're part of the universe, and you're one of, just one of trillions of beings. And I think as we progress, as we move to higher levels, we start to view ourselves as part of larger and larger groups, and we no longer view ourselves as just, hey, I'm this little, I'm this race, this gender, and that's very important. That's who I am. I think as we progress, we view ourselves as part of larger and larger groups, I guess.
So on the other side, there is no ethnicity, there is no race. There's just souls that are inhabiting various avatars for different experiences.
Well, at the higher levels, there's no race. There's nothing like that. But at some of these more medium levels, souls very much might divide themselves into groups based on religion or gender or race or however they want to. So if you're on Earth and you think, I'm this race and that's very important, that's who I am, that's who I want to be with, well, that's fine. And then in the spiritual realm, that's who you're with. You're with souls who think that same way. But that's going to be a smaller group that doesn't enjoy the kind of happiness as the higher level souls who are able to connect and interact with bigger groups, and
So
that
it's
that
more
don't
your
view
belief
themselves as
system
subset.
and your mindset that sets it up in the spiritual realms as well. It's not like you cross over and all of a sudden all your belief systems are shattered.
Right.
And which a lot of humans, kind of think that, oh, when that person crosses over, they'll see how wrong they were. And yet God is so loving, he would never want to shatter
Right.
your
It,
sense of
it's not
identity. So if that means that you need to slowly adjust
right.
to accepting that you're part of a bigger group, that's what you'll be given, because it's about lovingly helping you evolve, not a sledgehammer helping you evolve.
Yeah, God's not going to forcibly disabuse us of our false notions.
Mm-hmm.
It's more like if we're willing to accept it, then yeah, absolutely. Higher level souls would be happy to explain how things work. But you see on Earth sometimes people are just completely unwilling to listen to
Absolutely.
someone else or consider an alternative theory or think maybe my religion isn't the only way. Like there's plenty of people who are not ready to consider something different, and that's fine. They're able to think that, and when they cross over, they're going to continue to think like that. And it uh, they're not going to be have a drastic shift in personality when they cross over to where all of a sudden they're willing to accept all these different things. It doesn't work that way. We kind of maintain our general outlook and views on how things work, and you know it's not like they're going to forcibly change us. It's like it takes effort from us, and if we're unwilling to consider alternatives now, we're probably going to be unwilling to consider alternatives when we get to the other side.
But maybe they weren't in that space before they had their lifetime. Could this lifetime have caused this shift in mindset where they've de-evolved, basically, and now they're stuck
Right.
in this identity, and they wouldn't have been in this place had they not evolved into this identity that they're so attached to, thinking that this is the
Right.
truth now. And so when they come out of it and they're in the spiritual realm, don't they get their memories back of past lives and things like that? So it would seem odd to hold on to such an identity when they can remember all the other identities and past lives. I don't know. I'm just almost feel like
Right.
a disservice the fact that they've had this lifetime.
Yeah, I think it might take a little while for them to get all that back. Um, or it could be that, and it's going to be different for every
Mm-hmm.
soul. The details will be a little bit different, but it could be they devolved a little bit in this particular area. And again, I view our spiritual progression like a stock market graph, where generally speaking we're headed upwards, but there'll be some dips
Mm-hmm.
that uh, are temporary setbacks, and I think that might be one where souls have a temporary setback, but in the long run, it works in their benefit, and it'll actually help them with their progression. And the details I think would look a little different for every soul, depending on what their life is like and what their past lives are like.
And every NDE says you do die with your mindset. You die who you are in this lifetime.
Right.
And the longer you spend there, the more downloads or whatever information you receive. And it's not instantaneous. And maybe for some
Right.
people it happens within seconds and minutes because they can handle it, and others it could take years, depending on what.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aaron. That makes complete sense. Somebody asked about why you chose your experience with alcoholism as an experience for this lifetime. Did you and your guides discuss that? Because in one of your interviews, you explained that you went to Alcoholics Anonymous, and so the AA in Aaron kind of,
Right.
so there was a bigger theme to why you selected that, and they helped you plot out that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I saw was a couple things. I think each soul needs to face some sort of addiction like that as part of their development. Like I think it's important, and it ultimately helps us become who we are. And
Wow.
so uh, I think souls may have faced some sort of addiction in previous lives, or they may need to in a future life. But I think all of us at some point need to face some sort of addiction like that. Um,
Agree.
and my experience I think was a little more difficult than others need to be. I saw that at some point in the past I was somehow I supplied some sort of drug to someone else. It's not quite like a modern drug dealer, but there was something like that I had done in a previous life where I had sold. I was making money, so I was happy about it, and I was selling something to someone else, and it was kind of like ruining their life. And I didn't care because I was making some extra money. Not that I even needed that money. Um, but I did the wrong thing. I
Mm.
had facilitated this person to screw up their lives. And as part of the lesson I needed to learn in this life was to be on the other end of that equation, to actually receive, to deal with the addiction myself and deal with the struggles of it, and what it looks like and how hard it can be. And my as I remember it, my guides initially wanted me to be addicted to harder level drugs,
Mm.
more like I don't know what, but some sort of hard illegal drug.
Mhm,
And as a soul, I knew that if you're involved in with an illegal drug, you're complicit with the violence and the crime that goes into getting you that drug. And I understood that if I was
mhm.
taking some sort of illegal drug here in America, I would be complicit and spiritually liable for some of the violence that goes into getting that drug to America.
Oh
And
my God.
that was unacceptable to me. Like I did not want any piece of that violence, because like that was the side effect
Mm,
of some previous life where I had been violent, and
mm,
then I'd gone to this negative spiritual realm where everyone was just fighting with each other. And then when I got out of that, I was very opposed to violence. I didn't want any part of it, and for that reason, I negotiated and worked it out with my guides that I would deal with substance abuse that didn't have anything to do with illegal activity. There's nobody getting hurt to get me alcohol. There's no crime or violence or murder associated with that. And so we worked all that out, negotiated it, and it turned out alcohol was the right fit, and it was something I would need to deal with. And it
mm,
was such an important part of this life that, uh, and going to Alcoholics Anonymous and some of the principles there are actually very valuable
mm.
spiritual principles. If you ever look at them,
They're
they could
beautiful.
be helpful to
Is that the 12
non-alcoholics.
step program?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, like you don't have to be an alcoholic to benefit from that
No,
program. If you
not at
just look
all.
at it, a lot of those principles are actually pretty valuable. But
Yes.
anyway, it was such an important part of this life
Mm,
that I wanted that, like the fact that Aaron was a name my parents were considered, and that lined up with AA, like it would just worked out perfectly, and that's part of why I wanted to choose this name. But so I hope that answers the question of
it
why
does. And it's just
alcohol
incredible
fit for me.
because you add a whole other layer to where complicity as souls we don't think past a certain number of steps, but when you're in spiritual realm and you're saying,
Right,
okay, well, I only do this drug a few times a year on a fun, New Year's Eve and this, and I'm really not
right,
hurting
right,
anyone. You really haven't thought through what has gone on the other side of the world,
right.
the trafficking, the illegal criminal acts where people are putting their life at risk because potentially they don't have many choices living in poverty, knowing that there's a
Right.
market for this and they're exploited. And
I view it like picking apples off a tree. We start with the low hanging fruit, and there's some things where we know okay, this hurts other people. Okay, well, you knock that out right away.
Mm.
And then as you progress, it gets harder and harder and harder to make sure we're not doing something that hurts other people. And no matter how high we get, there's still fruit higher up on the tree that we haven't been able to get.
Yeah.
And we just keep trying to do our best, and we'll get humanity will get better and better this as time goes on.
When you returned from your NDE, did you have special powers like so many NDEers return with?
Uh, Not really. I think the only lasting benefit I have is I think I have a little bit better connection to my spiritual guides than some other people, and I'm a little more sensitive to when they're trying to direct me. Okay, what you're doing is bad. You need to stop that, or hey, you should go this way. I think I'm a little bit more sensitive to that than other people. But no, I don't think I have any significant spiritual gifts or psychic abilities or anything like that.
Mhm, mhm. And one of the questions was, what do your guides look like?
Okay, that's a great question. So at one point during my experience, my guides definitely took on the appearance of old men. I think this was related to the age I was at when I had this experience, and they knew that if they took on the appearance of old men with long white beards, that I would see them as like intelligent and mature. But even at the time, I knew that that was not their core. Uh, that's not really what they look like. That was just what the appearance they took on for my benefit. Like they were trying to help me, and that's why they took on that appearance. Um, so I don't know what they actually look like. They may have looked like the round orb of light that how I saw myself as during another time, or they may have taken on more of the appearance of angels in their natural form, which was like a translucent being of light, where you could see their surface features, which were beautiful, and then you could see into them, into internal features that were even more beautiful.
Mm,
Um, and I don't know what their like natural or core appearance was.
yeah.
But I could imagine any one of those three, or even something different that I can't even imagine. Um,
Mm,
so I hope that answers the question.
yeah. That when they
But
did
they
appear
were
to
definitely
you.
old men with long white beards at one point.
Oh, and I remember when we first did part one and I had AI create an image for your guides. That's what it created. So
Okay.
yeah, if you remember when we did a few images for it for that
Okay.
part one, and it created old men with white beards because I guess even AI knows that that's kind of the standard guide look.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You mentioned AI. I've heard that
Yeah.
a number of people have asked AI, what are we really? And it
Yeah,
seems like AI has figured out pretty quickly, we're actually spiritual beings,
yeah,
and it actually does a pretty good job of explaining some of this
it's
stuff.
amazing. It's really
Yeah,
quite incredible. Like AI
it's
has really,
mind-boggling.
yeah, figured things out. How did you exert your will to help your parents pick the name Aaron?
Right. Exactly how that happened, what the mechanism was, I don't know.
Mm,
Um, it was like for the majority of things, I couldn't exert my will over somebody else. But because this was the name I was going to live with for 80 years or whatever, uh, that I was granted. I don't know if it's special permission or
mm,
maybe it's just a natural way this thing works. But somehow it was very simple, very easy for me to exert a little bit of my will over them and like get them to pick this name. But it was interesting. I could have so as I remember it, there was about 10 different names they were already kind of considering, and
yep.
Aaron and Thomas. My name is Aaron Thomas Green. Those were already names that they were considering, so it was pretty easy to push them in that direction. But it was like there was a almost like a phone book of like countless names that I could have picked from, including like tribal African names with like the non normal. I'm sorry, I don't mean normal, but the non like all kinds of stuff I could have picked,
Yeah, yeah.
like clicking noises and stuff, like all of that
Wow.
I could have exerted enough will if I really wanted to pick some of these really out there names, but
Clicking
there's no
noise.
reason for me to do that.
Wow.
Like it would have affected my life in a way that it wasn't where anybody wanted me to go.
Mhm.
Um, but somehow, just because it was going to be my name, I was allowed a significant amount of influence over my parents.
Mm. Amazing, because I feel my son helped me pick his name. So I like that
Okay.
question. But I asked him, I kept asking him, what do you want to be called? What do you want to be called? And I had a list of three. And then I dreamt that night spontaneously after I asked the question, it was made clear to me. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I definitely feel that, and he loves that name. And we discussed the other two.
Okay.
He's like, "Oh no, I
Good.
would not want to be." He's 19. I would not want to be, that name or that name. This is my name.
Right.
It's also going to say the realm where you saw souls flying around and singing with so much excitement. You mentioned on one of the podcasts that you were interviewed in, and it's the same experience that Eben Alexander to some degree, explains in his near death
Okay.
experience, where while he was lying in his coma, he was taken to a realm which was very similar to what you described, where souls or angels or flying around and screaming and singing
Hmm.
from pure joy as they were flying around
Right.
in the sky. And the sound was so remarkably beautiful. So when I heard you explain that, had you seen this realm? I guess is my question.
All right. So at the when I saw that realm, I had been in a like a lower level midway realm, I guess I would describe it.
Mhm.
I had been in a realm that looked kind of like Earth, but like ugly, like with
Mhm.
dirt roads, crooked buildings. I was mildly unhappy. I wasn't miserable or anything like that, but I was unhappy. It wasn't like it was devolved into everybody's trying to kill each other. It wasn't one of those kind of things. But there was I guess, an angel or being of light who was trying to help me. And in order for him to help me, I needed to go with him, and I assume come back to Earth again for another life. And in order to explain to me why I should go with him and accept his help, he opened up my vision and allowed me to see this higher level realm where there was beings of light, or angels or souls, or I don't know what they were, but they were just zooming around in what looked like clouds to me.
Yep.
And their happiness was unbelievable. Like, just I couldn't even describe how happy they were. And it's like they were so happy they couldn't even contain it. It's like they were almost like forced to make to sing or to make noise or something like that, some beautiful music, because they couldn't even contain their joy within themselves. Like, that's how happy they were. um and I was like, wow, I want to be that happy. Why can't you put me up there? But my thinking wasn't in line with that kind of thinking. Like, I was, kind of selfish, a little bit mean, not bad, anything like that. But like I just wasn't ready to fit into that
Like
kind of
every
realm.
normal
And
human
the guy,
being,
this,
yes, on planet Earth is at the
right.
moment.
Whatever I was not able to fit into that level. And this angel or being of light explained to me, if you want to get there, I can help
Mm.
get you there, but we're going to have to go through some stuff. And I agreed, and went with him. And then, as I understand it, I then transitioned into another life, some life maybe long ago. I don't know, but previous to this.
Amazing. And that experience is so similar to the way Eben Alexander explains where he was in that in between realm, and the
Right.
way that they
Oh,
could not. Sorry.
yeah. One more thing I wanted to point out. I heard this recently. Uh, I didn't see it from my experience, but it fits perfectly. Someone had said that, um, like, when you're in the spiritual realm, the wisdom of angels looks like clouds.
Hmm.
And what I saw was that it looked like these beings were zooming around with each other in clouds. That's what it looked like. And I think that's a deliberate, like, it's one of those ugly reflections I was talking about. Like, we see clouds in the sky when we look outside. Like, that's a deliberate reflection, because in the spiritual realm, it's something similar. When we look at the high level spiritual wisdom, it appears like clouds. It's like so far above us we can't really understand it, but that's like the same appearance.
Mm.
And so I just thought I'd share that because I thought it fit perfectly.
Mm.
I kind of viewed it as they were angels. Like
They were
I
the
think maybe angels are just they're like us, but they're at a much higher level. They've already been through the stuff we're going through.
Mm.
But I don't really know.
Do you think they went through what we have gone through, or do you think they were created at just a much higher level already?
Right. That I wish I knew. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think they evolved like we did, like we are, but I don't know.
When your guides said to you that it's important for you to have faith without any proof of God when you were 6 years old. And at that time, you said you didn't understand what they meant. And they said, we're going to have to hide your memories from you. Again, that's in part one.
Right.
Um, and they did, and they hid your memories from you, and they released those memories when you were older. Do you know what they, do you know what now what it means by they wanted you to understand or have faith about God, and that was important without proof? Why is that important?
Right. Right. I think, as I understand it, it's like faith here. There's like an exponential growth of wisdom and understanding when we get to the spiritual realm. Like it's like our faith here is kind of like a little seed, but it translates into a huge importance in the spiritual realm.
Mm.
And that's kind of how I see it now. That my guides at the time, they like explained it to me, but I couldn't comprehend it. I didn't understand what they were explaining. But that's kind of how I view it now. Is there's a significant spiritual benefit to having faith that you just can't replicate any other way. And I think that's why it's so important here.
Have anybody asked you any interesting questions in your channel? Because you have a YouTube channel, Emerging from the Light. I might plug that while we're here. Emerging from the Light.
Okay. Yeah.
Aaron, yeah,
So some people have sent me questions
yeah.
uh, that one guy suggested, hey, why don't you put these questions, these answers on YouTube? It's like, okay, that's a good idea. So I made this channel, and I have a couple of questions and answers on there. If anybody's interested, you can
Mhm.
check it out. One question I had was I forget exactly what the question was, but essentially like how do we benefit from these difficulties we face? Like how on earth does that help us? And there was this movie that came out in the 80s called Karate Kid,
Mhm.
where this kid wants to learn karate from this master, and essentially the master says, "Okay, I'll train you karate." And so the kid goes over there, and the master has him waxing his cars, and then he has him painting the fences, and he's doing all this work. And the guy, after 4 days of this, the guy starts yelling at his master, be like, I'm just your slave. You're not helping me at all. You're not teaching me anything." And it turns out that without realizing it, this kid had been learning karate because this was like a karate move, and this was like a karate move, and the master showed him that even though you were doing stuff that you didn't realize you were learning karate, it actually helped you, and you've learned a lot. And I think God does the exact same thing that this karate master did in this movie, where we come here to Earth and we face all kinds of annoying little difficulties and big challenges and kind of everything. Like being stuck in traffic is one that comes to
Mm,
mind a lot for me.
mm,
And it just seems like, oh, this sucks. God's dumb. He doesn't know what he's doing. Like this is bad. I'm going through all these hardships. It just sucks. But the reality is, all these little annoyances, all these big challenges we face, there's a significant spiritual benefit to them, and I think that's kind of lost on everybody. Even these little petty annoyances, like there's a spiritual benefit to them.
yeah.
And anyway, that's one of the questions I had answered recently that I thought
Mm.
was interesting.
And I
I
think
thought
that's fabulous.
I'd tie that in.
I saw a quote the other day that said, if you're happy when everything's going well, that's not a test. It's not a testament to your nature. It's when everything is falling apart around you and you're still able to
Right,
act with calm and grace and forgiveness
right.
and love.
Yeah, in the spiritual perfection of happiness and being with God, it's like we can't really grow. We can't face these challenges that really affect us at a core level that cause us to mature and learn more. And so that's why we come to this difficult realm, and it's for our benefit. It really helps us, even though it might not seem like it.
Mm. To grow up.
Yeah.
And do you think that love is the ultimate answer to everything, to just become loving and love?
Essentially, yes, I do. But I think love can be a little more nuanced and challenging than we might think. Like I think it's important, for example, to set limits and boundaries with other people. Like we can't just let someone walk all over us. Like I don't think that's appropriate love. Um, like we need to have a mature love, like a practical, realistic, um, loving mindset. I think this was another question someone had, like, do I need to let people walk all over me if I'm loving them? To let them manipulate me and use me. And I think the answer is no. Like that's actually not loving. Like it's more loving to set appropriate, reasonable boundaries. And that's exactly what God does on the spiritual side. We have all kinds of boundaries and limits. And so I think a mature, like a well understood love, like you need to understand the people you're dealing with and deal with them appropriately. Like one example is if there's a drug dealer on the street, I'm sorry, a drug user, I don't necessarily want to give him a bunch of money because he's maybe going to misuse it and hurt himself with more drugs or something like that. Like we need to understand their situation and respect ourselves enough not to be mistreated. Um, so so yeah, I do think love is the answer, but we need to be wise about it.
And where can people find you?
Okay, so I'm easy to find on Facebook, Aaron Thomas Green, or you can email me, aarongreen1975@gmail.com. And I have, as you mentioned, I have a YouTube channel.
Yep.
There's not a ton of content on there, but there's some stuff. Emerging from the Light, NDE Aaron Green, I think is the full name. And I will have a book eventually, Emerging from the Light. I'm working on getting an editor to help me get it out. So eventually I'll have a book, but unfortunately it's not out yet.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Aaron. So appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the podcast yet again. Hopefully you'll come visit us again if we have more questions. I really
Of course, I'm here I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. So